Wow, UFC 317, Topuria knocking out Charles Oliveira and Pantoja submitting Kai Kara France. What a night of fights it was. And let's start off by recapping those two huge title fights and what it means for the UFC going forward. So Topuria moves up in weight class, fighting for that vacated lightweight title belt against Charles Oliveira. Topuria knocked out Volkanovski and Max Holloway at 145, moves up to 155, and does it again against another fan favorite in Charles Oliveira. Moved up in weight class, still had that power, still had that speed, and you saw it on display in the first round tonight. After the fight, they brought in Paddy Pimblett to square off against Topuria in the octagon, and I think that is the fight to make next in the lightweight division. A Paddy versus Topuria fight would be one of the biggest fights the UFC has had in years. Looking at that co-main event, Pantoja and Kara France. If you watched the pre-fight show, I had Pantoja to win by finish, and he got the job done in the third round by submission. He was just too much for Kara France all fight long. He didn't even look like they were in the same weight class. They didn't look like they belonged in the octagon together. Pantoja just keeps seeming to get better and better after every single fight. He really dominated in that first round, came back a little bit slower in that second round, and then was able to close the show in the third round. Just an absolutely incredible performance by both of these fighters in the main and the co-main event. But that is how we ended the night. We had great fights throughout, and actually that third fight on the pay-per-view sets up what looks to be the next challenger for Pantoja. So we had Brandon Royval and Joshua Vaughn in what might have been the fight of the year. They broke all sorts of records in terms of amount of significant strikes. They both landed over 100 throughout the entire fight. Was crazy impressive, and in my opinion that fight really went down to the last 60 seconds where Vaughn scored that big knockdown on Royval. This was a huge step up in competition for Joshua Vaughn, where just 3 weeks ago he was considered an up-and-coming star, maybe a contender somewhere down the line. And by the end of the night, he's squaring off against Pantoja after that co-main event title fight. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like next. I really like Van. I doubted him coming into this fight. I picked Royval, didn't bet Royval in my pre-fight show, but, Van keeps proving me wrong. We'll see if he can do it again. Pantoja's a completely different level than Royval. Van has a lot of talent. He's super young, and we will see what he can do next. There were a lot of other really impressive performances on the card tonight. I just wanted to shout out a couple of other fighters here. So Dariush comes back, gets the win over Mckinney after probably losing that first round. I was a little bit concerned for him going forward, but he was able to get that win and looks to be his career looks to be back on track. Starting off pay-per-view, we had Peyton Talbott with a pretty dominant performance over Lima there, and I had him as well at plus 170. So he looked really good. So he lost his last fight and then came back and dominated with a decision victory there. You had RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez, getting that nasty knockout to end the prelims. Delgado with a nasty knockout on the prelims. Cortez, similar to Dariush, kind of coming from some time off, comes back. It's her first fight of the year. Gets a really dominant win. Mckinney led off the prelims with a fantastic finish in his own right, getting that submission victory very early in that fight. Overall, a really great night of fights. Looking to see what comes next for the UFC. Pantoja and Topuria are clearly two of the biggest stars that the UFC has going right now, and I think there are some really big fights that both of them can make. So obviously, Pantoja can face off against Vaughn. I would love to see Merab potentially face Pantoja. I think that would be a crazy fight. And then on Topuria's side, I can't remember the last time we had somebody run through 3 fighters the way that he has with that knockout power, like of fighters of the caliber that he's run through. He ran through Max Holloway. That guy does not get knocked out. He ran through Alexander Volkanovski, a UFC great, and now runs through Charles Oliveira. And he's seemingly doing this incredibly easily. So is the next fight against Islam Makhachev? I'd like to see that, but Makhachev just gave up this lightweight belt that Topuria won. So maybe down the line, maybe both of those fighters can continue those win streaks. That is something we can see. I think in terms of a money fight, a money-making fight, Paddy Pimblett and Ilia Topuria would probably be the biggest fight that they've made in a few years. Thank you for watching my quick recap of UFC 317, and until next time, remember to bet smart and lift heavy.